Hello, friends. Sifu Sylvain back with you. We're now on chapter 20. We are in the thick of it. And so we've been learning about the teaching. We've been learning about how the teaching has been delivered to us. We've ultimately learned that reading, reciting, everything is in this sutra, Myoho Renge Kyo. Myoho Renge Kyo is the fundamental teaching. Reciting, reading, copying it, getting others to read, write, receive it, embracing it, teaching it. Now, when we get to teaching, we dive into Bodhisattva. What is a Bodhisattva? How does a Bodhisattva develop? How do we develop our own Bodhisattva nature? Uh, what are the rewards or merits or developments or achievements or advantages gained by practicing? So now we are moving into specific behaviors. And chapter 20 is called Never Disrespectful Bodhisattva, or as our older pal, Mr. Kern, called it, Sadaparvi. Oh my goodness, I said it earlier. Sadaparibhuta. That was a nickname given to him, and that nickname references a statement that he made to everyone he met. And in the the late 1800s, the 19th century, what Kern translated his statements as was basically whenever anyone would treat him poorly, he had a habit of exclaiming to every monk or nun, male or female lay devotee, while approaching them, "I do not contemn you, worthies. You deserve no contempt, for you all observe the course of duty of bodhisattvas and are to become tathagatas." In this way, Mahastamaprata, that bodhisattva Mahasattva, when a monk, did not teach or study. The only thing he did was, whenever he descried from afar a monk or nun, a male or female lay devotee, to approach them and exclaim, "I do not contemn you, sisters. You deserve no contempt, for you all observe the course of duty of bodhisattvas and are to become tathagatas." So, there's 2 points I want to make as we enter into this 20th chapter. And first of all, we need to open our Buddha Mind channel so that I speak clearly and yet you hear me clearly so that we can progress. So, Daimoku Sancho, please. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam. Thank you. So, again, going back to our contemporary or most recent translation, simply because we started that way, but I'll continue to reference that old translation because I think it's interesting. We can get some nuances from seeing the difference in the way they interpret the same thing, right? So, at that time, the Buddha spoke to the Bodhisattva Great Strength, the Great One. "You should know now that when monks, nuns, laymen, or laywomen embrace the Myoho Renge Kyo, if anyone curses, abuses, or slanders them, that person will receive great punishment, as taught earlier. But those who attain advantages, merits, as taught before, will have their eyes, ears, noses, tongues, bodies, and thoughts purified." That was the last chapter, right? Great strength. Long ago, why do you suppose he's addressing somebody as great strength? And this is the point I made earlier about the naming convention in these these stories. Remember, he's talking to ancient peoples here. This is 2,600 years ago. People had a different way of thinking then, and they had a different way of um, processing knowledge. And all of Shakymuni's, all the teachings, all the Buddhist teachings, effort is to try to reach people with things that they know to get them to see beyond things that they know. This is kind of a general statement about teaching, isn't it? But I just want you to pay attention. I've said it before, but I want you to pay attention to the format here, because two things are going to happen in the next two paragraphs that really obviate what I've been saying over and over again. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I want you to see it so that once again, you can see how it's in the very, it's a formality of the way of the teaching. And I want to train you to really see it so you don't get derailed by, here we go again. Oh, I want you to get it that all this naming convention is very specific. It's specific to the current teaching. So he's going to be talking about this bodhisattva. Remember the last chapter, we spoke to bodhisattva, great effort. The great effort of teaching others is what precipitates our full enlightenment. So great effort is meaningful, right? Now we're talking about great strength. So what great strength is he teaching? All right, so think that way. It's not a person whose name is I never drink soda, diet sodas. But if his name were I never drink diet sodas, you'd know a hell of a lot about that person already, wouldn't you? Not just that they don't drink diet sodas, but there's a kind of thinking involved there, right? So now he's talking to great strength, bodhisattva. Long ago, innumerable, unlimited, inconceivable, and countless eons ago, there was a Buddha named Majestic Voice King Tathagata. Majestic Voice King Tathagata. Majestic Voice. So he must have been a great teacher. He must have been one who orated much. All of these are oral sermons. So it kind of makes sense, right? One worthy of offerings, truly awakened, fully clear in conduct, well gone, understanding the world. Now see, well gone. Hold on to that for a minute. Understanding the world, unexcelled leader, trainer of men, teacher of heavenly beings and people, Buddha, world-honored one. His eon was named free from decline, and his land, great achievement. Now, that's like a dissection of what I've been saying over and over and over again. Buddhahood, Buddha, is not some mystical thing or place or thought. It's not something that occurs to you after you die. It's not a place you go. He's saying it all right here. I'm not making this up. His land is called great achievement because it's here and now on earth as human. He was a teacher of people and men. How do you teach people and men? You have to be here amongst them. Right? So to be a Buddha, to be enlightened fully, is to be here in this samsaric reality and perceive it through the lens of the pure eyes, ears, nose, tongues, bodies, thoughts, purified. That's Buddha. I mean, this is going to become, the more I say this, the more you see it and think about it, the more this is going to become so obvious to you. You're just going to smile and laugh because the confusion that we have from so many challenged teachers, we're just all human, right? Myself included. And maybe that's why I talk about it so much, because I remember breaking through this and going, oh gosh, this is so obvious. And it made the teaching so much simpler. I didn't have to jump through all these hoops. So I hope I'm helping you do that. Now, in the next paragraph, in that world, Majestic Voice Buddha taught the Dharma for the sake of human and heavenly beings and Asuras. For those seeking to be Shravakas, he taught the Dharma according to the Four Noble Truths. For those, for them, to free them from birth, old age, disease, and death, right? That's the Four Noble Truth thing. Leading them finally to Nirvana. For those seeking to be Pratyeka Buddhas and Arhats, he taught the Dharma according to the 12 causes and conditions, the Nidana, the 12 causal chain. And for Bodhisattvas, to lead them to supreme awakening, he taught the Dharma according to the 6 transcendental practices, enabling them to gain Buddha wisdom. You see, Buddha wisdom is something here and now as a bodhisattva. That is the ultimate practice, right? You don't have to be a bodhisattva, but don't you want to be fully awakened? Don't you want to get rid of all suffering? All right. Great strength. The lifetime of Majestic Voice King Buddha lasted for eons, equal in the number of sands of 40 trillion millions of Ganges, myriads of Ganges, the number of eons during which his true Dharma remained. That world was equal to the specks of dust in Jambudvipa, all the world, and the number of eons during which his merely formal Dharma remained was equal to the specks of dust in 4 continents. After this, Buddha had abundantly benefited living beings. He passed into extinction. He left samsara, the nirvana of no remainder. See, remember 2 nirvanas? There's the nirvana you reach of ridding yourself of the deluded lens of our samsaric mind, but you're still here. And then when your teaching life is over, then you reach nirvana of no remainder. So this mortal coil doesn't even hang around anymore. After the true Dharma and merely formal Dharma had entirely disappeared, another Buddha appeared in that land. In other words, here in samsara. He was also named Majestic Voice King Tathagata, and was worthy of offerings, truly awakened, fully clear in conduct, well gone, understanding the world, unexcelled, leader, trainer of men, teachers of heavenly beings and people, Buddha, world-honored one. In this way, there were 2 trillion Buddhas in succession, all with the same name. Now, were there 2 trillion individual separate Buddha? No. This is what can be confusing, as he keeps rocking back and forth between relating to people as they are and relating to people in a way that expands their thinking, takes them further. What he's describing here is that this teaching voice of Tathagata-ness, suchness, never goes away. It's timeless. There's no past, present, or future for Buddha. Buddha always is extant. Always. Wherever there is phenomena, there is Buddha. So he's saying trillions and trillions because he's trying to blow apart this concept of lifetime and individual and even, he's already gone into this in chapter 16 about his own lifetime. I've been here forever and I'll be here forever, basically. So now he's talking about another Buddha, and there's 2 trillion of them. It's the one Buddha that instantiates, that is discovered, revealed within each individual. Okay? So I'm going to stop nailing on that, but I want you to understand, don't get confused by this. It's the formality of the teaching. After extinction of the first Majestic Voice King Tathagata, and after the end of the true Dharma, during the period of the merely formal Dharma, extremely arrogant monks had great power. He's talking about the early days, the early teachings, and the small vehicle monks. At that time, there was a bodhisattva monk named Never Disrespectful. Great strength. Why do you think he was named Never Disrespectful? He's going to spell out what I've been saying all this time. That monk bowed in obeisance before everyone he met, whether monk, nun, layman, laywoman, and praised them by saying, quote, I deeply respect you. I would never dare to be disrespectful or arrogant toward you. Why? Because all of you are practicing the Bodhisattva way and surely will become Buddhas. We're all practicing the Bodhisattva way, whether we know it or not, whether we're Buddhist or not. And at some time in the future, we can become completely released. Tathagatas. Buddha. Everybody has that potential because that potential is already there. It's just a manner of revealing it to ourselves, to our samsaric identity. That identity is false. It's a cover. It's a disguise. What's really behind the mask? Buddha. Okay? This monk did not devote himself to reading and reciting sutras. So, he didn't practice correctly. Remember, I said Buddhism is largely about attitude, one's worldview. So this particular monk was living in a time, he already told you, living in a time of very arrogant monks. What does that mean? It means they berated people all the time. And he was a monk, and he saw that the teachings weren't about being arrogant. They weren't about being superior. They were about being compassionate and helping others to achieve Buddha. So his rebellious act, his strength, Bodhisattva great strength, I'm talking to you, was instead of taking them on directly and arguing with them, he chose a specific path to undo that arrogance. He recognized that that arrogance is in all of us. Even if we only recognize it occasionally, it's always there. It's a trait. It's a tendency. And under the right conditions, see, tendencies and conditions, all of us will express some kind of disrespectful behavior or arrogance. Okay? So, his mode of practicing the Buddha's teaching was, every time I meet anyone, no matter who they are, no matter what state they're in, I will let them know. I will voice my thought. Right? This is the example given of the great voice, the majestic voice, King Tathagata. So, everyone he meets, he bows in front of them. He makes a point of going up to them and praising them, saying, I would never dare to disrespect you because surely you are all to become Buddhas. You are practicing the Buddha way, the Bodhisattva way, and you are all to become Buddhas. Among the four groups were those who became angry, enraged, and mean-spirited, and reviled and cursed him, saying, this ignorant monk, who takes it on himself to announce that he does not disrespect us and assures us of becoming Buddhas, where did he come from? We have no use for such empty, false assurances. Thus he passed many years, constantly being cursed, but never becoming angry or enraged, and always saying, surely you are to become Buddhas. When he spoke this way, some would hit him with sticks, tiles, or stones. But even if he ran off and stood at a distance, he would continue to cry out loudly, I would not dare to disrespect you. Surely all of you are to become Buddhas. And because he always spoke in this way, the extremely arrogant monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen called him, they gave him a nickname, never disrespectful. Not a bad nickname, I might say. That is what H. Kern was titled the whole chapter, was this nickname. Sadaparibhuta. Wow, it came right out that time. Sadaparibhuta. That's his nickname. When this monk was nearing death, from the sky he heard 200 million billion verses of the Myoho Renge Kyo, which majestic voiced King Buddha had previously taught. And he was able to receive and embrace them all. Immediately he obtained the purity of vision and of the faculties of the ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, described earlier. Having obtained the purity of these 6 faculties, his life was extended for 2 million billion myriads of years, and he taught this Myoho Renge Kyo everywhere for the people. When he was nearing death. Now you can look at his lifetime as an atonement, but don't make that mistake. He wasn't atoning for some original sin or some flaw in him. He was devoting his life to the correct teachings. He was counterbalancing all this negative, arrogant stupidity from monks that thought they knew what they didn't. So his was a very active challenge. There's a lot of this in Nichiren, you'll notice. There's a lot of a rebellious nature, but it's done in a super compassionate way. So that could be confusing. But understand that when you challenge something that big, even though you see it all around you, there first has to be an acknowledgement that if it's all around you, if it's in your world, then it's also part of you. No matter how quiet you manage to keep it, or how few times it happens to just come out like a dragon, and then you recede and you go, oh, that's a bad habit, I don't need to do that. It's simply proof that it exists. It is a human tendency. And therefore, to make a mission of your life, to challenge that tendency, no matter what conditions arise because of it, and the conditions will arise because you're stirring the monkeys. Remember the monkey mind? So it's important to realize this, that it's not an us and them. It's not a self and other. Again, the duality wants to confuse us. Our ego is so attached to the idea of identification, self and other, me and you, us and them. But that's not it. If you're practicing Buddhism, even if you're in those tendencies, recognizing those tendencies and adjusting your behavior accordingly in a compassionate way, that's not arrogant. That's not angry. That's not being violent, so much as it's being determined and committed, willful. That's what changes karma. And when you change karma in yourself, it affects all karma. That's the power of this practice. It goes far beyond self. There really is no self. So when the self is dedicated to taking action, that action transcends the self, even if you think of it as self. Ipso facto, when a bunch of Hutus slaughter in Darfur with machetes and chop 70,000 people up and throw them in rivers, that is in you and I as well. So it's difficult to look at the world and say, those tendencies all exist within me. And this is how we change the world. Because we're all, I don't even like the word connected, because it's not a connection as much as it is a real oneness. I used to have this vision of like a layer of sparkling light, and wherever something living existed, or even not living, there was a lump in that cloud that was Bob or rock or tree. It was like a more dense collection of those sparks of light. So you could say that we're all connected, but that's not quite enough. We need to come up with another word. We're melded. Okay? The Bodhisattva transformed a multitude of tens of millions of billions, enabling them to dwell in a state of supreme awakening. After his lifetime, he met 200 billion Buddhas, all of whom were named Sun and Moonlight, and under their Dharma, he taught this Myoho Renge Kyo. Through the causes and conditions created by this, he also met 200 billion Buddhas, all with the same name, King of Light and Master of Clouds. Under the Dharma of those Buddhas, he received, embraced, read, recited, and taught this sutra for all four groups. Thus, his ordinary vision became pure, as did the faculties of his ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Among the four groups, he taught the Dharma fearlessly, because he saw the result. He actually experienced enlightenment, his awakening. Great strength, back to great strength. In this way, never disrespectful Bodhisattva, the Great One, made offerings to numerous Buddhas, revering, honoring, and praising them. After planting such roots of goodness, he met tens of millions of billions of Buddhas once again, and under the Dharma of those Buddhas taught this sutra, gaining untold blessings or merits, advantages, gains that enabled him to become a Buddha. Great strength. What do you think? Can never disrespectful Bodhisattva who lived at that time be unknown to you? He was really me. If I had not received and embraced, read, and recited this sutra and taught it to others in previous lives, I would not have been able to attain supreme awakening so quickly. Because I received and embraced, read, and recited this sutra and taught it for others under previous Buddhas, I attained supreme awakening quickly. Great strength. At that time, the four groups, monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, angrily treated me with contempt and scorn. Thus, for 20 billion eons, they never met a Buddha, never heard the Dharma, never saw a monastic community, and for 1,000 eons they experienced great suffering in the deepest purgatory. After they had finished praying for their sins, once again they met and were taught and transformed by the supreme awakening of never disrespectful Bodhisattva. Great strength. What do you think? Can those four groups of that time who always slighted that Bodhisattva be unknown to you? They are now in this assembly. Bhadrapala and his group of 500 Bodhisattvas, Lion Moon and her group of 500 nuns, Thinking of Buddha and his group of 500 laymen, all of whom will never regress in their pursuit of supreme awakening. You should know, great strength, that this Myoho Renge Kyo abundantly benefits the Bodhisattvas, the great ones, and enables them to reach supreme awakening. This is why the Bodhisattvas, the great ones, after the extinction of the Tathagata, should always embrace, read, and recite, and explain and copy this sutra. Then the world-honored one, wanting to restate this teaching, spoke in verse. So what was that all about? It calls back to chapter 16 again, as he really wants to drive home this point that he is a man experiencing full awakening. But that awakening, that Buddha state, is not unique to him. It is available, extant, innate, in all phenomena. All that needs to happen, no matter what your past difficulties, no matter how long you've been arrogant, no matter how much your history of family and ancestry promotes hating Buddhists or whatever the heck they did, or belittling religions entirely. If you now take hold of this true teaching, this sutra, embrace it, read, recite it, copy it, help others to attain, to understand it, to practice it, get on the Bodhisattva path, you are assured Buddha mind, Buddha awareness, Buddha wisdom, Buddha nature, quickly, now, in this life, not after you die. There's no penance here. The only penance that he talks about, or punishment that he talks about, isn't something inflicted upon you from some other. Suffering is self-created. It is you and I that create our sufferings. Do not make that mistake either. From the get-go, the Four Noble Truths, how the Four Noble Truths come to instantiate as beingness, the 12-step causal chain, all of it refers back to it is our encapsulation of energy that brings upon itself. Call it the law of attraction, cause and effect, call it whatever you like. It is our identification with self, our ego, that brings all manner of suffering to us. We have tendencies, and we either create the conditions or we find ourselves in the conditions and we nurture suffering. Nobody else. There's no great God in the sky. There's no great influence in the universe. There's no mystical Buddha that says, you're good, you're bad, you get punished, you don't. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. That kind of thinking is from magical thinking, magical religious type thinking. Magical thinking spawned religion. Religion didn't create it, but it sure does work hard to keep it alive, because people who think magically are easily manipulated. Now, I don't want to get too political, but in the past there was a Buddha called Majestic Voice. I think, he's going to repeat all this, and there'll be more minutia in there. So I really encourage you to read the verse section. I'm going to read a little bit of it because that's how this chapter ends. There's always morsels of knowledge, little things you can grab onto in there, and we're all different, so I don't know what will leap out at you. But I think I've dialogued this lesson enough that you've got more tools to work with to really grasp what's going on here in chapter 20. During billions and billions of eons of inconceivable time, rare are the times that one can hear this Myoho Renge Kyo. During billions and billions of eons of inconceivable time, Buddha's world-honored ones rarely taught this sutra. Therefore, its followers, after the Buddha's extinction, on hearing such a sutra as this, should have no doubt or perplexity. They should wholeheartedly teach this sutra everywhere. Meeting Buddhas in age after age, they will quickly achieve the Buddha way. And the Buddha way is the way of the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva that clearly perceives the merits, the advantages, the purity of thought, all consciousnesses. And in the next chapter, 21, we're going to learn about the powers of those purities, what happens when you're firmly ensconced in the Buddha way, living as a human, which is the only distinction. The Buddha way is timeless. The Bodhisattva is the perception of the timeless Buddha way while in this samsaric state, condition, human. This is the great appreciation of life, because only by instantiating as a human a combination of consciousnesses in one mind can we perceive this inconceivable reality, the process of life as it actually functions. It's an opportunity for deep, deep appreciation, love, joy, wonder, amazement. That's how this life was meant to live. All right. Now we'll close with Daimoku Sanshu. Once again, I have to say how much I appreciate. I want to say dialogue because I feel like I'm really speaking to you, but I know this is a recording. So maybe it's a suspension of disbelief I put in my head when I make these recordings that I'm actually talking to you. And so let me know. Let me know if I am, if I'm not. Comments, that's what the comments are for. Thank you so much. Be well. Take care of yourself. Practice. Learn. And, however you're comfortable doing it. Some of us are comfortable being bellicose and, this is great. Others of us are very shy. And you don't even have to tell somebody you're a Buddhist. You can just start talking to them or interject sometimes in a Buddha teaching way. You'll figure it out. I know you will. Here we go. Daimoku Sanshu. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam. Do not breathe saliva. P.S. Postscript. As I was doing Sancho, I thought, even if you need my help and you see somebody struggling with something, but they just need a little help understanding. Or if they ask you questions, this is mainly what happens is you'll direct somebody a little bit with some Buddha wisdom and they'll come back at you. Well, what if this? Or how does that work? Or, well, how can I find out more about that? Please don't hesitate to send them to me. Send them to my YouTube channel. Have them put comments under videos. I got tons of videos, lots of subject covered. I know I'm doing the Lotus Sutra series right now, but there's a lot of easier questions about relationship and life and death and what's the cycle, what is karma, what is chanting, what is Myoho Renge. I've got all of those videos on my channel. So they can begin by teaching themselves. Very easy, not confrontational. They can ridicule me or they can get fascinated by me or whatever. But the point is, it's an opportunity for them to ask questions on their own of me. Okay? And this will help you because this is credit. This is merit. They would not have sought more knowledge and encouraged themselves toward quickly realizing Buddhahood had you not done whatever little thing you did. It doesn't take much. And I will support you as best as I'm able. Even if they read enough of me and they don't like my personality or whatever, the seed is planted. They will look elsewhere. They will find information to suit their seeking mind. Even if they never talk to me or you again, you started the rolling. You planted the seed. that merit can never be taken away from you. Bodhisattva, great effort. Love you guys. Obviously, don't mind talking either. Kind of like doing that. Well, sharing something like this is just the benefit and the energy that comes from it is just undefinable. So have a wonderful day. I'm going to leave you with that. And next up, chapter 21. We're moving right along, aren't we? Take care.